What's it like to go to a foreign country as a student?
One thing I believe that should be remembered is don't forget why you went there.
Now you speak Sinhala and English
And Tamil and French.
and Tamil.
And French.
Now, out of our friends that have gone abroad, we have only one really successful friend. That little bit that I had to do, not that I struggled with it, but I didn't enjoy it at all. Everyone's dream was to go abroad.
Was it?
Alright, hello everyone. Hope you are all doing well. We're back with another episode of the Success Academy, and with us we have a familiar guest who has been with us for a couple of episodes, Abhishek. Nice to have you back.
Thank you for having me.
Super. So, in this video, what we are planning to talk about is what's it like to go to a foreign country as a student. So, when we finished A-levels, everyone's dream was to go abroad.
Was it?
I don't know, I feel like half of our batch went abroad.
They did, but was it that dream? I mean, for me, in my case, it wasn't really a dream. It was something that I had to do. I mean, again, not that I was forced to, but maybe then again I was. No, so I'll give you the reasons as to why I went abroad. So my passion was to study aeronautical engineering, which is the study of planes and objects that fly. It was actually aeronautics and space. And in my case, while we do have a lot of good programs here for aeronautical engineering, it is more on the maintenance side of aircraft because we don't really manufacture planes. I believe now there are certain companies that are going down that particular path, but in general it's all about maintenance, right? Because we get planes, if you take Sri Lankan Airlines, we get planes from Airbus and we maintain them here. And even if you take the smaller planes that we run, whether it's the Air Force or whether it's private companies, if they have planes, it's all about maintenance. But my interest was more on the design phase of aircraft. And in that regard, there was not really too much in terms of options in Sri Lanka. Maybe even if you were able to study, once you finished that study period, there was not too many options or any options at all for that matter when it comes to actual employment.
In Sri Lanka?
In Sri Lanka. Maybe now it's probably different. I haven't checked too much. I know that it's still not to the level that you expect it to be. Maybe one or two companies, like I mentioned, might get into that venture, but it's still in its early stages, let's say like that. So I was anyway of the opinion that I would have to go abroad if I want to follow this dream of becoming an aeronautical engineer. So that is why I decided, from the start that I will go abroad to study. So, yeah.
So you went to France. Why did you choose France as opposed to other countries you could have gone to, like Canada, Australia, or so on?
Well, multiple reasons. That for me, it was between France and Dubai. Both would have been good enough options, but I think with France, France is a hub for aviation. You have Airbus, which is arguably the biggest company in the world when it comes to manufacturing airplanes. They're based, it's a French company based in France and obviously other countries as well, but their main base is France. It has I would say, a culture of aviation. There's so many different small companies that make planes as well. It's very popular in terms of aviation and aircraft manufacturing. So it seemed like a pretty obvious choice. I mean, there are other options as well, but France's appeal was pretty high. And also the program that they had when it comes to following education and getting a degree, it seemed appealing. It was appealing rather. And I have no regrets in that regard. Choosing the study package that I did, because I was exposed to a lot of the industry's ways and means when it comes to the present day industry, let's say it like that, the aeronautical industry and how things are done. I was exposed to a lot of it, and that's thanks to the fact that I was able to go to France and study there. So in that regard, I think it was a pretty good choice. Not too many better options, I would say, in terms of getting a quality education.
So now, like I said, when we finished school, now out of our prefects batch of 32 students, I would say nearly 15, 16 of them are abroad.
Yeah.
In your case, because you went to study aeronautical engineering and you said because they didn't have opportunities here for aeronautical design or plane
Yeah.
design, that is why you went. But when you take other subjects like business management, marketing, finance, there are options here,
For sure.
right? There are also remote working options here that you can get a qualification here and work for a foreign country while living in Sri Lanka.
Fair enough.
Why do you think people spend so much money and go abroad?
Well, I think it comes down to one word. I think it's opportunity. I think there is more opportunity abroad. It's unfortunate to say. I think, again, I'm talking more from the point of view of us back then in 2018 when we did our A-levels. If you look back then, it seemed for sure that there was more opportunity abroad as opposed to Sri Lanka. Now I'm made to understand, it's been a while since I've been in Sri Lanka for quite some time, but I believe that opportunities are more, there are more opportunities right now compared to what it was before. But I think it's more or less down to that you get more opportunities to work in the field that you are interested in. In most cases, the pay is much better for sure. Even if the cost of living is higher in other countries compared to Sri Lanka, the pay kind of, complements that. So I think those are key motivators for people choosing to go abroad, just because the opportunities are more than what you have here in Sri Lanka.
Now,
Might sound unfortunate, but harsh truth.
if you had a choice,
Yeah.
if they did aeronautical design here,
Yeah.
would you prefer to live in Sri Lanka?
100%. I think I've been pretty open about that. That if I had the choice of doing it here and afterwards getting a job that at least kind of reciprocates the amount of effort, the work I've put in, and the money I've spent to get that degree, I would have no issue in staying in Sri Lanka because it's a beautiful country.
Absolutely. Now, out of our friends that have gone abroad, as far as I know, we have only one really successful friend.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
but I don't think we should. Maybe the others will get there sooner or later.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. So now, if you compare everyone else who has been abroad, they are more or less in the same situation as those who are still in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
So obviously, are they playing a long game, or is it just that going and making it in a foreign country is just as hard as making something for yourself here?
No, 100%. I can use myself as an example because it's not right to talk about anyone else. Not that it's not right, but I would prefer to talk about myself. But in my case, for sure, I learned. But there are some other smart people as well. I've come across some of my close friends who are French. They are incredibly smart, and I have no problem in saying that they are at a different level of intellect to myself, and I don't think that's self
Deprecating.
deprecating exactly, because that's just reality. I mean, you have your levels, but some people, they have a high level of understanding, and that's how it is. You have your skills, somebody else has theirs. But what I'm saying is, it doesn't change in terms of the competition that's there. If you take my case, aeronautics is done by so many students across of France, and like I said, it's very popular. You have so many aeronautical engineering aeronautical engineering schools rather, that are specialized in aeronautical engineering, and you have all these students who go there, they work very hard and they come out. And so what I'm trying to say is, there's a vast pool of people hoping to look for jobs. So it's difficult for sure. While you do have a lot of companies that are involved in aeronautical engineering and related fields, you have equally, it's like in Sri Lanka when it comes to the A-level examination and those trying to get into local universities. You have so many students, but you only have a limited amount of seats available, even if you take all the universities put together. So it is a challenge for sure. And sometimes you might need a bit of luck as well, for sure. I mean, I think people have come to realize that. Obviously, the best you can do for yourself is, do well in your studies and give yourself the best chance. And beyond that point, sometimes you might need a bit of luck. I'm telling this because I have colleagues who I know as well, French people who have done really well in school. They were getting very good marks. They were in the top end of the class, I would say. But even right now, even for them, it's sometimes a struggle to get a job, in what they like. They might get something in a certain other field, but it's not what they, put effort for. they worked really hard to become a specific type of engineer or work on a specific type of role, and they sometimes are not successful in getting what they want, but that's how it is. It's very competitive is what I'm trying to say. So regardless of whether you're in Sri Lanka, whether you're in France, there is that competition.
There's no easy path.
Yeah, for sure.
You still have to work very hard to.
Yeah. I mean, nothing's a given, right? You have to work for it, I think. Like I said,
Yeah, because I feel like people have a misconception that if you go abroad, your whole life is sorted.
And that's something sometimes we got frustrated by as the Sri Lankans who were there in France. We have a group of Sri Lankans. We went to the same university in Sri Lanka, then we went to the same university in France. And I mean, you get it sometimes when people who are back in Sri Lanka, they look at us and they see that,
even when you all come down, it's like Pranchata maybe. Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. I mean, maybe to an extent fair enough, because we are fortunate enough to go to another country and study. So, it's, I mean, there's a cost involved. Sometimes not everyone can afford that.
Yeah.
So in that regard, I don't see the problem. But it's not a bed of roses once you go there.
Because I think even in the minds of the parents who are sending the students abroad or children abroad, what they think is, okay, if we sell our land and sell our property and send our child to Australia or Canada or France or wherever, that's it. From that point onwards, their life is sorted.
Yes.
But it's not always the case, is it? You have to...
Well, the first thing you have to realize is you go to another country, it's a complete cultural shift. Unless you go to another subcontinental country, even then, okay, maybe, I don't know, India or whatever it is, but in most cases, even then, even if you go to a place like India, it's a completely different experience, because in most cases, like probably 99.9% of the cases, for the first time you're living alone. Right? You have to go from, I remember telling this to another friend of mine as well. You have to go from getting used to having your tea ready in the morning at 6 o'clock when you get up, to getting up yourself and making your own tea. Okay, I mean, that's just a small example, but you get what I'm saying. It's a complete cultural shift and a change in the way of life.
Yeah,
you need to start to learn to be independent.
How did you handle that? Because now, in my own experience, now my house is under construction over the past couple of months.
Yeah,
and I had to live at a friend's place. Now, at that friend's place, I still got more or less the same benefits I got at home.
Yeah.
But from, washing my clothes to getting my own food, I had to do most of those things by myself.
Yeah.
That little bit that I had to do, I really, not that I struggled with it, but I didn't enjoy it at all. I was missing home. I just wanted to go back. And I felt so grateful for everything my parents do for me.
Yeah.
I found a newfound gratitude for what they were doing, appreciation for what they were doing when I was living outside of the house.
Yeah.
So now when you go, now my brother's in Australia, and my brother for some reason seems to be enjoying their independence, and he seems to be getting everything done on his own. He has not complained once since he went, but I'm assuming it's not easy.
It's not easy. Like, people might enjoy it. I didn't complain. And what I told myself was, even when there were difficult moments or moments where I was like, this is too much of a hassle. Why did I do this? I mean, not why. I should. That's actually the question I told myself. When I was feeling like, this is too much. This is what I told myself. Like, you're the one who decided to do this, okay? For a reason. You decided to follow your dream of becoming an aeronautical engineer. And this is your way to do that, at least right now. This is your pathway. So if you made that choice and you want to go, you have to do this. Like, you have to make the sacrifices and, just make your head. I'm talking about having a mentality of, this is the way I get to become what I want to be. So you have to deal with it. It wasn't a problem. I genuinely had no issues when it comes to being independent or doing things alone. Sure, it was a change from what I'm used to. Like I said, one thing I had to get used to was not having my morning tea, because my grandmother is always up before any of us, and she makes tea. She knows that I really need my tea in the morning. So that's a basic example, but that starts my day basically, because without a tea, I sometimes don't function. So I had to, get used to that. But that's again just one example. But yeah, it's something I told myself. Like, if you made the choice of spending this much money and coming to another country, you have to go through these things as well, because this is part and parcel. You're not the only one who's doing it. It's not like you're a hero for, oh, I'm living alone. I'm going through all this. There are enough of people to do that. Sometimes people have to do things like go to university, then they do one job and then do another job just to make ends meet, so that they can balance paying university and also their rent and their day-to-day needs. So yeah, it's something I told myself, like, if you really want this, and you want to go down this path, these things are part and parcel, and it's good for you as well, because you grow as a person. There's no point in being it's great to be independent, and figure out things for yourself without having to rely on. It's nice to have, for sure, but you should be able to do things on your own as well.
If someone is looking to go abroad, do you think now when you apply, did you apply through an agency or did you apply by yourself?
Well, through an agency. So the university where we studied in Sri Lanka, they were partnered with the French embassy. So the French embassy was promoting French education in India and Sri Lanka. So through that, it was easier to get the process sorted because we had the embassy's support. So we went through our university, and the university then did most of the application work for us. So yeah, it was through university.
So if someone is trying to go abroad now, when I was applying to go abroad initially, I went through Jiva Education.
Yeah, okay.
Right, they're a pretty good place. Similarly, now I know some students who applied completely by themselves and did the process like that. What would you recommend? Do you think it's better to go with an institute? Now I know of a friend who tried to apply through an agency and then got swindled.
Yes, that also happens, unfortunately. I think just do your research regardless, because in certain cases, I personally don't know too many people who have gone through their own, gone personally and done their work and just gone personally, regardless of whether they've been successful or not. If you, like I said, the important thing is to do your research. Speak to as many people as you can before making a decision. If it is contacting the university themselves, get all the information you can before you make a decision. That's all I can say. Speak to as many people, speak to all the people you know. If you have ways of contacting other people who have gone through the processes, either through an agency or done it alone, there's always a way to find out. That's for certain, So I would say do your research regardless, because each to his own. Some people might figure out a good way to go on their own and do it. Other people might need an agency. So I don't think there's one correct way, is what I'm trying to say. Just do your research. That's the key message from this.
Now you speak Sinhala and English.
And Tamil and French.
And Tamil.
And French.
No, I'm saying before you learn how to speak French, you spoke Sinhala.
But yeah.
You speak English, Sinhala and Tamil.
Yeah.
Right. So then you went to a country whose language you did not know at all. Right? Completely new.
Completely new.
How did you manage to get along with the people, function? How did you manage to do all of that?
Very good question. In our case, again, that was a requirement. Okay, and I feel like sometimes when you have a requirement, you might put that bit of an extra effort in getting things done. So in our case, we needed to have a level of French to get our degree. That was required. So you can just prepare for the exam and figure out, just probably get a good mark. You don't have to speak French. If you memorize things and the grammar and stuff, you can get a good enough mark for the examination that they have, and you can get the required level. But it's to live there, it is very important that you know French.
Okay? Because they don't like speaking English.
They don't. They look at you like.
Because the French and the Brits have had a very bad relationship.
Very true. That is very true. So if you talk in anything other than French, they look at you like, who is this? Like, why are you here? That kind of thing, right? But in general, also, I think it's always good to learn other countries' cultures and languages, and I think language is a great way of learning culture. But like I said, we needed French to survive. Whether it's a basic act of going to a bakery and buying a loaf of bread, not a loaf of bread, a baguette, or going to a bank and sorting out your bank details or bank work, anything administrative, you needed to have a decent enough level of French. And when we initially went, we didn't have that for sure. Even if we could introduce ourselves and just give a few words in French, when the other person talks back to you, or like I have a funny story where I went to the airport. I mean, probably funny for me, but I went to the airport and I went to the officer who was checking my passport. And then just to give a good impression, I greeted him in French and asked, "Good morning, how are you?" I spoke in French. And he responded in French. And he continued to speak. And I was like, "I'm sorry, I can't understand the word. Let's switch to English." So it is a challenge, but you need to know the language to survive.
How long did it take for you to get to a position where you could successfully communicate with people in French?
I would say it took me 2 years.
2 years?
But I'll tell you why. The reason for that is, there's an explanation for that. So when we initially went to France, we went to a city called Troyes, which is around 2 hours from Paris. And that third year was completely in English. Our studies were completely in English. So we didn't have a need to talk in French. And there was not much of a requirement to talk. And when it came to the administrative work that I spoke to you about, bank work or whatever it is, we always had a representative of the university coming with us so that they would come and translate and sort out things. So we didn't have that need. We had French classes, but so then it was only then that we actually spoke French. Okay, during those 2 hours, our teacher was like, "You have to speak French. There's no English here." But just 2 hours a week, so your progression is pretty slow. And in addition, with our French friends, which are French friends and colleagues, they spoke to us in English as well because they wanted to support us. They were very friendly. They were very gracious and very helpful. I think that was also a main reason as to why we were successful, at least, or made it through university. But even with them, we used to speak in English a lot. So, as you can see, the need to speak in French was not really there. Even if we would go out, we would have our French friends to help us out. And then I moved to Paris. We had to move to Paris for the next phase of our education. Where we do our specialization subjects. And then, first thing was, I started working because I wanted to earn some money so that I could support myself. And I was working sorry for that, I was working in a shop and I was working as a cashier. In that scenario, English is not going to get you anywhere. You need to know how to speak in French. You need to know how to describe where to go and find a certain product, to explain how much they need to pay, whether they need a bag, all those things that a cashier does. So I need to make money. So if I can't do my job as a cashier, I won't have my job. That was one. And with that, the most important thing, because the jobs, they were just there to help, but the main thing was my studies. For the 4th and 5th year, we slowly started transitioning to French classes, as in had our subjects in French. And while the teacher could explain certain things to me in English, I was like, there were 2 Sri Lankans and the rest was all French. So go guess, they will obviously do the class in French. They're not going to, do the class in English. And we would get lost because we wouldn't understand a single thing. Again, we had a lot of good friends who helped us out, but then we had the need, is what I'm saying. That with that need came that natural push to actually, put effort and get better at it. And I think that's how I actually came to a very good level. I also had to work for an internship. I had an internship rather, and there it was completely in French. My 5th year was completely in French. I had to do all my presentations in French, and then my work as well I had to do it in French. So the need was there, and I really wanted to do well, obviously, to get my degree. So because of that need and the requirement of having to learn French, that really pushed me to talk more to people, to understand how, the language works, how people talk in a familiar way and in an official way, to learn those intricate details of the language. It all came from the need of wanting to succeed and really do well,
Now here in Sri Lanka, the biggest need for people is to try and learn how to speak English well. Because learning how to speak English well opens up a lot of new opportunities for you. Plus, you can approach the international market if you can speak English. We see a lot of 10-day English courses, 15-day English courses. And like you said, they have classes for 2 hours a day, once a week. Is this enough to properly learn a language?
They help. I wouldn't say they wouldn't help. But just how effective it is all comes down to you. And you can repeat your slogan if you want. It comes down to one one key factor, and that is practice. And sometimes I feel like people, because me included, I felt that sometimes when you say, for anything, when we do anything, when we say practice, sometimes, again, this is me personally, maybe not everyone thinks like this. Sometimes I feel like it sounds a bit childish, like, oh, practice what? I'm an adult, what practice? But it is important because repetition and just continuously doing the same thing over and over again helps you to grow and helps you to master it. And this is something that people need to realize if they haven't realized it already. If you take sportsmen, you have the most talented sportsman in the world. If you take cricket, I don't know, people like, I know Sangha. Sangha is a very good example, to be honest. Sanga's talent, everyone knows he is arguably the greatest batsman Sri Lanka ever produced. But Sangha is all about practice. He would go to the nets, practice day in and day out. If he didn't have preparation, he wouldn't even go for a tour. If you take football stars, my favorite player is Lionel Messi. Messi has all the talent in the world, but he still practices. He goes to training sessions, and even if it's a case of just doing some random free kicks, he does it because it helps you stay sharp. So there's no lack when it comes to sources of education, sources of knowledge, but it's how you take them and how you make up your mind. You need to be properly disciplined and just start practicing and repeating things that you learn and focus on how you can improve them, which is what I did with French as well. I would find myself, watching a lot of French courses and stuff like that, watching a lot of content in French. But I would also speak and try to practice and get things like the pronunciation right, because in English, maybe we don't worry too much about things like pronunciation unless you're pronouncing words wrong, but how you pronounce them, like the American way or the British way, maybe it's not too much of an issue. In France, sometimes if you don't pronounce things well, they look at you, they just don't understand if you don't pronounce it, the way they pronounce things. So that's very important, because people always tell me in France, like, no, you speak French well, but sometimes there's a bit of a weird accent involved. I've come to accept it, but there are times where people haven't understood it, not because I said the wrong word, but it's the way I've said it, So I would find myself practicing those things again and again to get the right pronunciation. Sometimes it would be just me going on Google Translate, putting the word in and playing it on speaker and listening to it and getting each syllable right. So it, again, all comes down to practicing. That's just simple as it is.
Finally, for someone that is looking to go abroad now,
Yeah.
would you say that is a good option to go abroad and study, or would you say try to look for better opportunities here in Sri Lanka?
Again, depends on what you're looking for. I know I'm giving a very vague answer. Our good friend Kavinka always tells me, every answer you give, it says, every answer you give starts with the words, it depends. And he gets frustrated every time I give this. But it really does, in my opinion, because it depends on what you're searching for. Either way, because going abroad is also a great opportunity to learn other cultures, like I said, gives good exposure. The only thing I would say is, when you go abroad, you are exposed to new experiences, which is great. One thing I believe that should be remembered is don't forget why you went there. Okay, sometimes when you go and start working, people get money and they're like, I'm earning money now and stuff like that, and sometimes they might forget. Again, depends on what you want to do, but I would say don't lose focus on why you went there. If you went there to study and get something, try to see it through. But like I said, depends on what you're searching for in life, and if the opportunity is there in Sri Lanka, sure, why not? If you can get something that you like and you're comfortable with, you could stay here or you could go abroad. But there is something about going abroad because you learn to be independent as well, especially if you don't have anyone else there, which could help build your character as a person as well. Helps you to be independent, helps you to find solutions when problems arise that you necessarily might not be exposed to here because you have your close friends. Not that it's a bad thing, it's always good to have support, but if you want to grow as a person, that is a good way to do it as well. But then again, like I mentioned, not everyone has the means to go. If they could, I think it will be a good way of learning new ways, when it comes to life, when it comes to anything that you're doing. So again, vague answer, but it really depends on what you want to achieve. Maybe figure that out first. Yes, it's not easy, but then if you can, that would be great.
Awesome. All right, Abhishek, thank you once again for being here. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Let us know your comments down below. Share this with a friend. Until our next video,
Keep practicing.